I think we are live. Let me just check quickly. Yes, I think we are live. I'll send you a link to the video so you can also participate in the chat over there.
Yeah.
Here you go. I think we are live. Let me just check quickly. Yes, I think we are live. Okay, yeah, I think we are good to go. Good afternoon to all of you that are tuned in. My name is Ashrit. I'm one of the co-founders of Beatworks, and I'm joined by my very good friend Siddhant, who's better known as dotdat. He's been producing music for a very long time now, and his music is being played all over the world by amazing artists. And it's a privilege to have you here, Sid. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you for having me. Yeah. And I'm actually, we've been trying to do this for a while, so I'm glad this has finally happened because of the schedules up and down. But yeah, I'm excited to hear what everyone has sent in and hopefully give constructive criticism and feedback. Yeah, I'm looking forward.
Awesome. So guys, welcome back to another edition of Eavesdrop, and let's begin the proceedings by hearing the first submission of the day. So this name is a familiar name. He's sent us a lot of tunes in the past. His name is Darshan, better known as Sinister Realms. And somehow it happens such that he's the first person to send a submission always when we open the link. And let's go. Let's hear his tune.
Emergency transport for a stranded witch or wizard. My name is Shashank, and I will be your conductor for this evening.
I mean, every Sunday we somehow end up starting off the stream with some sigh from Darshan.
Straight to it.
I mean, I don't have anything negative to say about this. Even the
Mhm.
mix sounded pretty good to me. The kick and
Yeah.
bass were like really nicely gelled, and really liked the sound design as well throughout.
Yeah.
What do you have to say, Sid?
I mean, to be honest, firstly, like my, as you know, my knowledge about Psy is very limited. But like sonically speaking, I felt like I was a bit like intrigued initially because there was like a really nice, interesting piano and like live organic drum part in the intro. And then honestly, I felt like the latter half was really sounding really nice and tight in the terms of mix and in terms of vibe as well. But I felt like in the intro part where you have a piano and the organic drums, there was a few resonances in the piano that kind of bothered me a little bit. And I also felt like the live organic drums could use a little bit more oomph because it's like uh and like if I could be like extremely honest, I'd really like to see both of these tracks split into two and have that, because I was actually really enjoying what was happening in the intro. And I felt like that was the track until like the Psy part came in. So I feel like he could do like two tracks with this one track because both the parts have so much potential, you know?
I actually feel what you mean, because I was kind of listening in the background. I was still like
Yeah.
setting up the stream and everything that time in the intro.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it really caught my attention, the
Yeah.
detailing in the intro, and like you said, the acoustic drums as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I'm with you on that. Like, I think I would like to see the split into two tracks.
Yeah, because both of them have like a varied vibe. Which the initial intro also had like a very inviting, interesting kind of vibe, and then it goes into the side where it kind of just felt like two separate tracks brought together for me. I think that's my personal opinion. But yeah, that's what I just felt. Yeah.
Super. So as always, Darshan, thanks so much for sending us your music. Maybe you can take this back, what we just said about your track, and maybe something. Maybe you can send us something a little different, because you've been always sending us Psy, and we really like your stuff. But we would also like to see some variety from you.
Also, I would like to say that it's not important that you listen to us, you know, because music is all about what you feel. So as much as you might value your opinion, like always trust yourself as much as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, great point there, Sid. Cool. So without further ado, let's move on to the next track that we have. I believe this also might be a Psy tune. A lot of Psy producers somehow getting the wind of Eavesdrop. So cool, let's go. This one's called Twisted Poetry by Anntumbra. Let's check it out. All right. Yeah, I think that sounded quite intricate. Like there was a lot of like tidbits with the sound design that I quite enjoyed listening to actually.
Yeah, I really felt like the low end really held it together as well.
Yeah.
It really hooked me on as well a little bit. Like it was quite a tight and nice and rolling low end, which kind of, even though there was so much happening on the top, the low end really glued everything and kept it tied together, which I kind of really enjoyed. And yeah, this and the in the intro as well, I found like really interesting sound design choices with all like those gong kind of percussions and stuff like that, which was quite interesting to me. Honestly speaking, I don't have anything bad, or I don't say bad. I wouldn't say bad, but I don't have any feedback as such, apart from the fact that I kind of enjoyed it. And like coming from me, like it's like I really don't enjoy size.
Living it over, you're saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, so it kept me hooked, which was nice.
Yeah, same here. Like I thought
Yeah.
this was very well done and very well produced also.
Yeah, that's what I felt as well. That's like, that's where like I said, like the low end groove was so nice, and like even though it was tight, it was like breathing as well. And I
Yeah.
really enjoyed the movement that created.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've heard some stuff from Anntumbra in the past on Eavesdrop, and this is definitely his best work so far.
Oh, nice. That's good to hear.
Yeah, and I've also shared a Bandcamp link in the chat if any of you feel like supporting it. I think this may be a release track also. I would suggest those of you who are sending us demos, please send us something that's not released. That's always better to hear and give our opinions and feedback on. All right, so let's move on to the next track. This one's called Sober Crane by Turquois. And it's tagged as a trip hop track. Really intrigued by what this has.
Interesting.
Yep. quite enjoyed the vibe of the track, but I just felt like there was some discordant things happening with the chords and the melody. What do you think, Sid?
Yeah, I like overall I was really enjoying the vibe of the track. It really got me like into a zone, which I quite enjoyed. But I also agree with the fact that there are a few discordant things. Even I felt like there's something not gelling with the bass line as well.
Yeah,
It's at some points it felt like it's locked in, at some points it felt like it's not. Um, and I also like personal opinion would be like I would like really like to hear that snare smack and come out, and some nice compression and saturation on that snare would help. And the same would go for the bass line as well. Some really nice compression would kind of just hold it together a little bit more, where I felt like even though it captured a great vibe generally, there was a little bit of separation within the elements, which didn't like kind of make it. Even though separation could be great, but like you know, as in terms of groove, some things just did not. I don't know, like hit the right spot. And I think that's just something you could fix with like mixing and like just reevaluating your frequency spectrum within the track and seeing what elements you want to shine, what you don't want to shine. I quite enjoyed that guitar as well. Um, but yeah, there was just a few things like the snare and the bass line, and like you said, a few discordant things. Actually, I don't mind the discordant bits because you know sometimes non-musical things sound good, but it's just about how you take those things and put them together in a good way, you know?
yeah, I totally agree with you. I just felt like to sum it up creatively, I would give this a 10 on 10. Technically, I think that's where a little bit of room for improvement is there. I really quite enjoyed the tone of the guitar and the feel that he was going for. Just feel like if you learn a little bit of music theory and apply all that you know, I think you could do wonders with this vibe.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be complicated music theory, just basic music theory. And, you
Yeah.
know, just a little bit more knowledgeable about what you're trying to do. Because especially when you're using like more acoustic and acoustic instruments, or anything that's more musical as such, it's always nice to know what is working, what's not working, what's in key, what's in scale, etc.
Yeah. I recently found a really interesting video of this guy that explains music theory for jazz in a
Yeah.
very simplified manner. If I can find it, I'll share it
Yeah.
just a little bit.
Sure.
But without further ado, let's check out the next track by Ahimram, and the track is called July. Let's check it out. Yeah, I think that really caught my attention, especially the way it started off with the ambience of those birds and nature generally, and then the piano came as quite a nice surprise. But I just felt like the piano was too resonant and it could use a
My thoughts exactly. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. It's like I always feel like, whenever anyone uses a piano is such a dynamic instrument that there's always so many resonant peaks and nulls and everything in there. So it's super important to kind of like really pick and choose the nice tonal quality of the piano that you like and pull out the resonances, because it just makes it so much more pleasant on your ears. But in general, I really enjoyed the progression of how it had started and where it went. And even in the middle of the track, there was this really nice warm synth, which was quite nice to hear. It actually sounded really warm to me as well.
Yeah, even the grooves also quite nice.
Yeah, grooves were nice. And also, the only thing this is a personal opinion, was that I felt like the kick could be a little bit less knocky. Because everything else is so nice and warm around it that kick really stands out with that knock. If it's a little bit warmer, the kick as well, it'll just gel a bit more together. I think that's just a personal opinion. It could be a stylistic choice by whoever's making the track or whatever it is, but that was just a personal thing I felt.
Yeah. And on that note, I just have one more tip that I can add to this. When the piano comes in along with the kick, it felt like it was too hard the way it was sidechained, because it loses its natural feel, right? Like, it's a bit like a piano.
Yeah. Again, that dynamic range kind of is everything is all about dynamic range. So you got to really manage that well.
Absolutely. I think maybe you can do a little creative sidechaining where you just sidechain the lows and the low mids of the piano and leave the highs intact.
Yeah.
So I think that could sort of like keep it natural yet control the dynamics of the low end with the kick.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
But yeah, great one overall. I quite enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So keep sending us more tunes, Ahimram. We quite enjoyed listening to that. Let's check out the next track. This one is from Sakhi, who now lives in Canada, who used to be in Hyderabad. And I think he's come up with a new alias. It's called Arcane. This track is called Third Mass. Let's check it out without any further delay. Sid, I'll let you start with this one.
Honestly speaking, I really enjoyed this one because it was a bit deep, trippy, and still kept me kind of interested throughout. Like I didn't lose focus throughout the whole track. Every section had something interesting going on, and it has quite a strong impact. The only thing I felt was that it's a common thing that happens during mixing is when you have too much low end in your tracks, your mids and your highs sound duller. Because your low end eats up the mids and the high frequency in the mix. So I felt like this was the case here as well. As much as this track was great and had a great vibe, I just felt like they needed a little bit more taming in the lows so that the mids and the highs could stand out a little bit more. As it felt like the low end frequency was like taking up all the space. And yeah, like again, like great little bit of not just still, but like nice kind of compression on the whole low end to just make it groove better and give that space for the mids and the highs to stick out, and you've got a banger.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Really cool vibe on the track. Definitely the best that I've heard from Sakhi, aka Arcane.
Yeah.
Previously, whenever he sent us music, his mix downs were like really weak. But I think he's done a much better job than the last couple of times he sent us music.
Yeah.
So I guess Eavesdrop as a community is sort of helping people around change their view on what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. So we are very happy about that.
Yeah. It's always nice to see that, when your feedback's taken well and that people actually work on it. And like, I mean, you've heard more stuff from Arcane than I have. So it's nice to see that he's developing through these feedback sessions,
Absolutely. I mean, that's what makes me want to do more of this and
yeah,
definitely like give back to the community in this way.
Yeah, but yeah, whenever you're done with this track, man, please like send it over. I'd love to like hear it fully and maybe even try and play it.
Yeah, for sure. Safi, if you're tuned in, say hi and send us the tracks and also all your future productions as well. Let's check out the next track without any further delay. This one's called Spectra by Two Oscillators.
Yeah.
I think that's quite a good sounding track.
I thought it was like super professional. I felt like it was all there. Terms of vibe, terms of mix. Yeah, it
I
was.
don't have
I couldn't.
anything bad to say about
Yeah, I couldn't point out anything. Like it was. Yeah, it was actually really nice to hear something like that, and it was actually like playable right away from the bat. You know what I mean? Like there's no changes needed.
Yeah, these guys are actually on their way to definitely like exploding in the scene. They're two brothers who have also been my students very
Oh,
long time.
nice. Oh, nice. Yeah.
And I can see that they're putting their analog synths to good use.
Yeah. Yeah. You know where to go if you want to sound good. Beatwork Studio.
Cool.
But
Shameless plug, but
shameless plug. But honestly, like that was really professional sounding. Like, you know, I couldn't really pick out anything that I felt like was out of balance or nice groove, nice sound selection. Mix wise, also very balanced. Yeah, and it also, like you said, had that nice analog warmth a little bit. At least it felt like that. I don't know if they've used analog synths or not, but it like has that warmth a little bit.
I do know they have a Model D, the Behringer Model D. So if
Yeah.
you guys can confirm that on the chat, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, guys, like the best track that you've sent here so far.
Yeah.
Definitely want to see this released on a good label. Let's check out the next one without further delay. This one's from Mohit Nayak and Sinister Realms. So let's see what these two have been cooking up.
Oh, I'm guessing it's going to be some Psy.
Hey, everybody, look! I'm gonna do something that's gonna freak you out. You watching? Are you?
No, wait, don't interrupt. It grinds my gears when you do that.
Do you know what it's time for? A sexy party!
What are you doing?
In fact, the only thing that would make me happier would be interrupted me. Don't interrupt me.
That was one crazy, funky, fun track.
Yeah, fun. I really enjoyed all the Stewie samples, family.
Yeah, for
And-
sure.
For sure. And like great vibe as well, man. Like I like it's rare for me to kind of enjoy Sai, but like I was really grooving in my chair. Uh yeah,
You guys could see it, like both of us, like chair waving over here.
yeah. So it was actually quite fun to hear that. And I couldn't pick out anything that stood out as such. Like it had its own vibe. I like the breakdown as well. I like that little breaky feeling it had in the start and the end, in the middle as well. And even mix wise, I couldn't really like pick out
Yeah, I
anything.
think the low end was quite
Yeah.
tight and really
Yeah.
like those slides as well, like just
Yeah.
before the next sections.
Yeah,
before the 8 bars or so.
yeah.
And also for me, like it felt like they've captured the vibe of like dubstep, drum and bass, and Psy all in one.
Somehow. Yeah. In general, it was like a nice little journey.
Yes, great one, guys. Mohit
Yeah.
and Sinister Realms, Darshan. Keep sending us more of your collabs, because apparently that's like the most fun thing to hear. All right, so let's check out the next one. This one's called Radiate by Bodha. I quite enjoyed that actually. Just if I go back to like technicality, that's probably where my most of my feedback would be. But the vibe of the track is quite sick.
Yeah, I agree with the vibe. It's definitely captured a feeling. But like you said, it's also the technicality where I felt like it needs some work. In terms of like, you could ease up on the distortion in the mids. Because it's actually, even though it's nice having that distortion, it's kind of taking away from the sound a little bit and making it a lot more muddy.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed the loud hi-hats. I like the distortion, like the loud hi-hats quite a bit. But I felt like overall, like the mix could just gel a bit more together, and it lacked a little bit of mid information, like mid frequencies information, because that main synth or bass or whatever that was a little bit too muddy for it to be sticking out and being having definition in the mids. But yeah, in general, a great vibe, and like you said, just needs a little bit of technical work here and there, and then it could actually be a really nice track.
Yeah, for sure. So like maybe if I have to give it some feedback, then what my 2 cents would be is just only distort the low end and the drums and leave the synths and all those things cleaner. I think it'll make a really nice contrast of having something like really radiate and something like nice and
Yeah.
clean.
Yeah. And if you want to still have that feeling in the bass and synths, I would say saturated rather than distorted, to add that little bit more roundness to it.
Yeah.
Because right now the distortion is kind of overbearing, and it's taking away from. I'm having a hard time understanding what that sound really is because of the amount of distortion on it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But I also enjoyed hearing some breaks using 909
Yeah.
drum kits. So that,
Yeah.
that was also cool because it's mostly all 808s and like that.
Yeah,
There's
yeah. That's what I said. Right? I really like the drums and the hi-hats a little bit because I think we're so used to listening to the hi-hats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. So we would love to hear more music from you. Please send us more demos. Let's check out the next one. This one's called, okay, it doesn't have a name. It's called WIP by an artist called Overtone. Let's check it out. Quite a vibey, like perfect Sunday tune. I felt. Just this felt like the low mids and the mids kind of took over everything else though, and like created that crowded sort of a feel.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I also like, it's just a natural thing for me as well. Whenever I hear music, my ears naturally gravitate towards the mix. And my feedback could be similar, where I felt like it's a great tune for like a nice day, Sunday vibe, like you said. But it needs work in the mix to like kind of like really accentuate. But what was really nice, like ear candy moment for me was those little bird sounds that came in here and there. I quite enjoyed that. But yeah, overall, I just feel like a little bit more work on the mix, and just like figure out what you need your focus element to be, because right now it's like the frequencies are so matched a little bit that it's hard to decide what is your lead element, or what is your what are you prioritizing in the mix. Yeah, I think that should be focused on. That's it.
Yeah, because the elements are all there. Like it's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
nicely put together.
Yeah.
Just that sine wave, that melody, which had that droplet sort of a feel that could
Yeah.
be down in the mix.
Yeah.
And I think the kick and bass sounded pretty good. The track was a bit soft, so I had to
Yeah.
turn my output gain quite a bit on my
Same. Yeah.
bass.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, we would love to hear more music from you. Thanks so much for sending us that tune. Let's check out the next one from Agent Bugs. This one's called Out of the Spiral.
കാട്ടിൽ കൂടെ ഒരു കൊട്ടയും തലയിൽ വെച്ച തിരുമേനിയുടെ പോക്ക്. മാടനെ കിട്ടിയ കൊട്ടയെ ചോന്നുകൊണ്ട് പോകാമല്ലോ. മാടനെ കിട്ടിയ കൊട്ടയെ ചോന്നുകൊണ്ട് പോകാമല്ലോ.
That was sick.
I agree. Like,
That
wow.
was really good. It was really refreshing to hear that, and I really liked how simple it was. It was so simple but so good. And for me, even that kick and bass was kick and snare relationship was like on point. I
Yeah.
really like the sound of the kick. I really like the way of the sound of the snare, and I love how the focus has been, like he knows what he wants to focus on, and like he's kept it simple. Um, and that simplicity is actually shining within the whole track. And even mix wise, I couldn't point out anything that I would like, at least on first listen that I would like, fix. Everything's got a vibe together. uh, Interesting vocal samples as well. um, yeah, I really had fun listening to that.
Yeah, Vishnu, definitely your best track that you've ever sent here on Eavesdrop. And just one thing that I felt though, around the 145, 150 mark, when you bring up the atmospherics, that sort of takes away from the low end a little bit. Just be a little careful with that. But other than that, man, like everything else was super, super, super on point. So great work.
He's got a question on the chat. Hearing on different speakers felt like some elements were going off key. Any feedback on that? I think that's what Ashwin is talking about, is the fact when you're saying about your off key. I think that when you bring up that Atmos, it kind of adds a little bit more.
It didn't feel like off key or anything, to be honest.
Yeah.
But sometimes, the room in which you're listening to can play a little bit of that pivotal role in sort of sometimes changing the perceived key of some sounds.
Exactly. Yeah. I would say that, just listen to everything you make on like as many different sources as you can. Because it also keeping in mind what you want it to sound like, because then that gives you a perspective of how it sounds on different modes, like studio monitors, headphones, car. It'll give you a better perspective on exactly what you want to focus on, depending on how it's sounding on different sources. Ideally, it should sound the same on all sources, and that should be a goal.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So we have a track from Father, Son, and Alcohol. This one's called Dub Techno, maybe. I don't know. Let's check it. quite a fresh take on dub techno. I could sort of resonate with what Ishan said in the chat about it feels a little bit like reggae, especially in the beginning of the tune. Even I felt a little bit like that. What do you have to say, Sid?
Yeah, it's like I agree with what Ishan said as well. And the only thing I felt throughout the track was there are already quite a few elements in there, and as the track progressed, there were more elements added and added and added, and making it more, stacking it more and more towards like as the track built up. But I quite find that when you actually work with a few solid elements in the start and develop those elements through the track, I find that more pleasing to hear. Here it felt like every 16 or 32 bars there was one more element coming in to try and fill up the frequency spectrum. Whereas if you're like thinking of trying to keep it simple and make a dub techno track, like just let the things that you have breathe a little bit more and let them evolve within the sequence of or within the arrangement. Just this stacking and adding is one things I learned throughout my experience as well, that I should do that quite a bit, like maybe like 10 years ago or something. And like eventually I started learning that instead of stacking and adding more elements, work with the elements you have and like trying to figure out how to make them have like a journey within the track. Yeah, that was the only feedback I felt, and it kind of gave the track a little bit of an amateur feel, that every 16 or 32 bars there was one more element getting stacked up rather than like subtle changes.
True, I totally agree with that. It is something that we tend to do, like with not much experience, because we don't know what else we can do.
Yeah.
Working with lesser elements is definitely harder, but it's much more fruitful in the longer run. Cool. So, I mean, we would love to listen to more demos from you, always, Rahul.
Yeah, it was interesting for sure. And like you said, it was a cool take on dub techno. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's check out the next one. This one's called Throwback by Jeshuran. think musically that was quite a strong tune, but just felt like it was underproduced in the way it was mixed.
Yeah.
And also felt like the highs were very shrill in at least some of the elements, like the snare. And
Even like the initial snare roll was like super shrill.
yeah,
And I also felt the arrangement was interesting because I felt like after that snare roll, it was going to go into like
a drop.
a drop kind of a thing, but it went into a breakdown, which is cool, I think, which is not, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's a cool because like it was a bit unexpected and I found that interesting. Um, but I agree with Ashrit on the fact that sonically it needs a little bit of like work because a few elements were shrill. And that was kind of like taking the shrillness of like all the high elements was kind of taking away from the beauty of the synths a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I think musically it was quite strong. Felt like it's somebody who's producing that comes from a musical background.
Yeah.
That was a good plus point here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I think this is the first time you've sent us any music. We would love to hear more from you, Jashuram. Let's check out the next one. This one's called Circa, and it's by Bionic Malice. Interesting name. Quite a funky tune, actually. Like I haven't heard anything like this before on Eavesdrop. But like I said on the chat, it reminded me a little bit of some of the Zed tunes from his early career.
I was thinking the same, that Zed Madzo kind of vibe that was there, and it's it's cool to hear that because I haven't heard something like this in a while actually.
I felt it was classily produced, but I think
Yeah.
technically, like there are a few challenges over there that if you
Just the
overcome.
mids, I think like a little bit more definition could work. But in terms of like feedback, I really can't pick out anything like and say, okay, we really need to fix this. It was an interesting arrangement, interesting choice of sounds. I really dig that like bass line that you had, like, it's like, I don't know if it was a real bass guitar or a sampled bass guitar, but it like really added a lot more to the whole energy of the track,
I second you on that.
Yeah.
Quite like that guitar was like everything in the track.
Yeah.
Okay, super. So let's check out the next one. This one's called Despair is Only Natural by Buku family.
desire for security, the nature of the structure of authority, talked about fear, pleasure, love. Is it possible for every human being here to be free of this enormous burden of suffering? You say, love is part of suffering. When you love somebody, it brings about suffering. Where there is suffering, you cannot possibly love. That's the truth, the law. When you love somebody and he does something with you or she does something which you totally disapprove and you suffer, it shows that you don't love.
I think there's that essence of like something very ethnic being captured here. But I felt like that synth was too digital, sort of,
Yeah.
Maybe if it was replaced with some really nice acoustic sort of Arabic instrument, I think it would shine.
I also felt like this distinct panning in the left synth and the right synth. And the problem with that is, as much as creating space in your mix is great, when you play that on the mono sound system, those two things are going to come together. If it's so panned left and right on the mono system, I think what you're trying to do here is trying to separate those two synths with those with intense panning. But it's also important to hear the sound on mono, because most club sound systems are like mono. And like, I think I felt like your intention to pan those two synths separate was to keep them separate and have a different vibe from each other. But the better way would be to actually make space between those two synths frequency wise to make them sit better, rather than panning them left and right fully. because
I
your
agree.
center felt completely empty and your sides felt full. Like that's what I felt in this in terms of the synth. And I agree with what you said with the synth, like a little bit more, something more organic would sound much better there.
Yeah, like if you can
Yeah.
get hold of an omnisphere or something, or maybe
Yeah.
even better patch, like maybe on Serum Vital or one of those
Yeah.
plugins, which respond better to like note changes and like velocity changes, I think that would definitely make the synth pop out a little bit better.
Yeah.
Cool. So we have the next track, which is called Double Switch by Offline. This is, I think, Abedia from Hyderabad. Uh, let's check it out. I think there's a cool idea here, but just
Felt
felt
like
like the
the
mix.
execution of the idea could be even like the intro. Uh, After the intro, like 5 or 6 elements came in together, like your lead, your bass line, and things like that. I felt like if you could actually introduce those things more subtly throughout the arrangement rather than have a blast of 4 or 5 instruments coming together at the same time, could have had a better impact rather than like, because it's confusing. It went from a bare bone
Yeah.
drum loop into this full blown thing. So I think arrangement and execution wise, there could be a little bit more attention to detail that could be done. And like, it's always nice to kind of hear development in a track rather than have it full flow swing. So I felt like that was one of my main key takeaways from this. Like, it felt a little bit confused, so maybe just figure it out how you want to arrange it and what you want out of the track, and that'll give you a better idea of how to execute the arrangement.
Yeah, and also I felt like some of those top loops were like meant for slower tempos, but since it was sped up, it was losing a little bit of feel. Like it was sort of generating artifacts with the warping that Ableton does, or any other DAW for that matter. Uh, Also, the psychology behind why somebody chooses to bring like 4 or 5 elements together is because they want to create an impact, right?
Yeah.
That impact can be created in so many other ways, actually. Like even if you
Yeah.
bring one element and like maybe use an effect like that has a similar impact, that can
Yeah.
also do the job.
Even muting the kick for one bar creates that impact,
Yes,
like,
yes.
yeah. So simple things can be manipulated in terms of creating impact, rather than having, what I said like a few minutes ago in terms of stacking up elements, rather
Yeah.
than stacking them up, figure out what you can do and how you can make those elements journey within the track.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on to the next track, which is called Where Did the Bass Go by Shashank. Super groovy track. Quite like the elements in there as well. Just felt like, I mean, technically it could be a little better. The kick sounded like it had too much low mid. That's usually a problem in like 909 bass drums. I felt if you don't cut that, then they start sounding a bit boomy.
I
What do you
agree.
think?
As well, like it was super groovy, and all the elements are working together. But some technical few things here and there I felt where, like you said, the kick and like, a little bit more tightness in that lead bass synth as well. Um, it felt a little bit flabby because I think it could be, like you said, it could be the kick or the bass, making feel a little bit flabby. Also, the hi-hats could use a little bit more groove and tightness because at certain point it felt like the hi-hat was like behind the groove a little bit.
Hmm.
So I think it's just But that's a stylistic choice again. It could be what you want to do, but that was just what I felt.
Yeah,
But
even there was this one point where some claps came in, like a clap roll, and that sounded a little like off time-ish sort of. Maybe that didn't
yeah,
have the same swing as the other elements.
exactly. Yeah. So even the high, that's what I felt, mainly with the hi-hat as well, where it felt like behind, like lacking from behind. It was just not hitting the groove in the right spot.
But definitely has the structure for a good full
Definitely.
track.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's so simple. That's what, techno is supposed to be simple, and that it captures that essence nicely. And it's if it's done right and mixed well, it's going to be a very effective track on the dance floor.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks,
Yeah.
Shashank, for sending us this tune. Let's check out the next one by 13th Note. This one's called 4266. I think that was a cool idea. Really like how this guy is able to like stitch a lot of these sounds together and make it sound almost seamless. Uh, I've heard a lot of tracks from him from in the past, and it's been the same case.
Yeah.
Even I felt like the low end was quite nice and tight also.
Yeah. I felt like there was a little bit of, like you said, I like the whole sonic qualities of all the sounds. I felt a little bit of emptiness in the mix, but in terms of not adding new elements, but just like making space for all of these things, right? At certain points, the mix felt a little bit too stripped. just because, like I said, everything didn't have. Sonically, they were all gelling together, but because they're gelling together sonically, they each need to have their own space in the mix. That was the only thing I felt that could change a little bit.
Yeah, maybe like work on the stereo field a little bit and like make
Yeah.
the things wider and make it fill more of the
Exactly.
space.
Fill more of the frequency spectrum rather than like, add elements, because it doesn't need anything else. It just needs space within the elements that it has.
Yeah, but highlight for me was the whole like call and response that was constantly happening throughout.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it didn't feel like, that's why I said it doesn't feel like it needs anything more.
Yeah.
It's just that because that call and response kind of held it together nicely. The only thing I felt was that, a little bit space and depth in the mix would make it nice and grooving and breathing more,
Sure. Yeah. Cool. All right, let's check out the next one. Today we have Escape with a track called All Over the Place. quite a nice, like quirky tune. Also really like the whole dub techno influence that just came in the middle of the track.
Yeah.
I found cool. Just the squeaky synth that could be softer by like 1 or 2 dB. I felt
Yeah.
that
It-
was about it for
It's got a nice like Mike Parkerish meets hipness
me.
meets like dub techno vibe. I quite enjoyed that actually. It's a little bit trippy and a little bit. It's got I like the amount of space it has. So there's like a lot of dynamic range because of the amount of space between the elements, which I quite enjoyed. But yeah, I don't think I've got any negative feedback. Like you said, just maybe that squelchy, squeaky synth could go down a little bit because it's constant through the whole track. That's one synth. So maybe down in the mix by a dB or two would be nice. But overall, I quite enjoyed that.
A pretty cool vibe. And
Yeah.
Escape, I think his name is Shubham. He's been sending us a lot of tracks from the very first Eavesdrop, and
Oh,
he's
nice.
always on point. So
He
really,
comes to all of my gigs as well. I know, so he's on it.
that nice.
Yeah,
It's a small
he's on it.
community after all.
Yeah, it is. It is. Every time I'm playing Bombay or something, he's like always there. So it's quite nice to hear his
Super.
music actually finally.
Cool. Shubham, please send us more of your tracks. We always really enjoy listening to your music. Let's check out the next one by Bass Vibe. This one's called Melu Sign. I like most of the track, but when that breakdown came in and that synth started to like that higher frequency synth, I
Yeah.
felt like that was too shrill and like
It overpowered the other elements a little bit. And
yeah,
honestly, like it took my attention away from the groove a bit too much. It was a bit too daunting, that element for me.
Same here. And also towards the end of the breakdown, just before the beat comes back again, instead of that synth pitching down, I think maybe you could fit something else in there that could contrast everything and then bring it back nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Other than that, nice vibe on the track. Cool. So let's check out the next one. This is from one of my students, actually, who's around 44, 45 years old.
Wow.
Been making music for 3-4 years now. I think he's finished more than 100 tracks.
Nice.
Let's check out this one. This one's called LFO by Vashishta Suresh. Nice vibe on the overall like feel of the track. Just felt like some technical things could be taken care of.
Yeah, I felt like the kick could use a little bit more weight because everything else was so nice and dense that like that low end kick felt a little bit lacking. But quite cinematic, and I like that approach a little bit. But just like I said, it's great overall. Just needs like more technical attention, more focus on the low end. I felt a little bit. It's very mid heavy, the track. Which is nice. Like the mids are nice, but it needs that low end to like support it.
And also a little more side chaining on the bass elements.
Baseline, yeah.
Because it felt like they were just floating over the top of the kick. The kick itself is a little weak, so that causes more problems.
Exactly, and I think because everything is side chained to the kick, it's only the transient that is getting ducked throughout, not like the whole kick. You know what I mean?
True. Absolutely, yeah.
All
right. Anyway, thanks so much for sending us that tune. We always enjoy listening to your music. Let's check out the next one. This one doesn't really have a track name. It's just got a date, 1st October 2022 by Act Purple.
I found that really interesting, especially that groove
Yeah,
in the
man.
middle, like that off thing was like there was something
Pretty
about it
sick.
that like really caught my attention. And it's an interesting way to make music is to not like stick to the normal grooves and like beats and like time signatures and stuff like that. Like it really caught my ear actually. Just that little middle bit where everything was kind of off time but in time at the same time. Uh, it was I think good work, man. Keep it up. It was really good.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no negative feedback to give here.
Yeah.
Really
Exactly.
enjoyed
Even
that glitchy synth and that groove, especially.
yeah, even mix wise, even though there might be some feedback that I could give, but just the overall vibe that mix kind of worked for what it was trying to do, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Quite an on-point track. One of the highlights of today for me.
For sure. I think one of the highlights for today for sure.
Keep a lookout. I think we may feature this track on our Instagram. Act Purple. If you're here in the chat, say hello. And great job, man. Like, amazing stuff. The only feedback I have is I wish the track was a little longer. It's just 2.5 minutes, actually.
Oh, is it? Oh, is it only 2.5 minutes? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish. Yeah. Then I also, because it's got potential for a journey, like a proper
Exactly.
mind-bending kind of journey a little bit. Yeah.
If that groove came back in with something like maybe one more thing different, like it would be like super sick.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's check out the next track, and after this we just have one more track to go. This one's called Secrets by Kalbai Sakhi. Okay, interesting artist name.
There's things I never knew that you've been trying to show me. So dark, but I always bloom. The world's mine and I own me. I know you know I'll be here through the mess. So don't you dare settle for less. Now watch me cruising through the city. I haven't seen a face. Life is pretty, girl. I need you to come through. You can be my little secret. It's in your eyes, all that you don't wanna show. I know that the world's been moving slow. You think you're the same, but you change every season. Yeah. So watch me cruising through the city. I haven't seen a face. Life is pretty, girl. I need you to come through. You can be my little secret. And But I've gotta make it out of here. My body's on the floor, but my mind's to the ceiling. I don't know where I'm going. And life's got its pedals to the floor, 120 on the dash. Like it don't give a fuck if I crash, it moves that fast. It's new to you, but it's not new to me. I see your halo and that's news to me. Too many pretty faces here buried in the blow. And I don't know where I've been, but I've been here before. Now you know that I couldn't lose my mind and keep you wishing just to come and tell you that I'm over you. Fall into the feeling, let me show you what I'm seeing. Let's just kill time, let me get under you. No, I need my peace of mind, and I think I'll be fine. Yeah, I'm probably better off without it. Don't know if we'll make it through the night, but we'll be alright, we'll be alright now.
I think that's quite a nice, like, world-class pop tune, man.
Yeah, it is definitely. I can definitely see it playing on the radio while
Yeah.
you're driving around somewhere, The only feedback I had is like, okay, this kind of comes. I don't have too much knowledge of this, but like since my girlfriend's a vocal producer, like I've been learning with her and she's like really good at this stuff. I felt like, overusing autotune brings in a lot of artifacts in the vocals.
Yeah.
So there should be a decent balance of I know that the autotune is also an effect, but there should be a little bit more balance between the original voice and the autotune voice, because I felt like if you dial back the autotune a little bit more, the character of your voice will stand out more, even though it really works out the way it is. It's just a personal preference because it could be a stylistic thing. If you like it that way, great. I'm just saying that, sometimes pulling back that autotune a little bit, even by like 2 or 3% will like make everything else pop a little bit.
Yeah, actually, I agree with that. But I did like this crackly sort of feel that the vocal had.
Yeah.
Some parts. I
Yeah.
don't know if that was the autotune or something else. But
Yeah.
overall, yeah, I think I would definitely rate this track a 9 on 10.
Yeah. Definitely.
Cool. So we have come to the last track for this session of Eavesdrop.
Yep.
This one's called Robot Touch by Ectopy. Let's check it out.
Robot Touch by Ectopy.
Yes. Quite a nice sequence there. Kind of reminded me a little bit of like Truncate stuff.
It reminds me. I was smiling because it reminds me of Truncate and my track PNQ.
Yeah. Actually, it does have that vibe. Actually, that synth, especially.
Yeah, that synth and like the bass line and like even after the breakdown when it drops down to just that single synth element in that. It's got a nice raw feel to it.
Yeah.
But just be careful because sometimes these kind of things can come and bite you in the ass. When you're like recreating tracks is fine. And it's got a good vibe, the track, but you've got to be really careful because sometimes it happens with me as well when I'm listening to something for so long that I intend to make that myself.
Yeah, I know. It happens
So
quite a
it's
bit.
always, as much as it's nice to pull inspiration from other artists, you have to be, there's a thin line and there's a fine line where you cross, where it sounds exactly the same or similar.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's a great track, but like, I couldn't help myself but think of what we just discussed, where it like just gave me that feeling like I was listening to a version of my own track.
With a clap on it.
Yeah. So you got to be careful, like, and it's flattering that someone's doing that, and that's really cool. But just for your own sake, be really careful with that. But great attempt, and it's got really nice funk. The track could use a little bit more work in the mix, but just keep
The low
working,
end
man.
felt a little
Yeah.
underwhelming, and also
Yes.
some of the hats felt too raw.
Yeah.
Those 16th
yeah.
hats, especially, they
Exactly. Yeah. And also when it comes to arrangement, just don't like. It's always nice to have a reference, but don't blindly copy the reference. It felt like a lot of the elements kind of just reminded me of P&Q a little bit. So that's why I was laughing through it. Like, I've got nothing against the track, but I was just smiling through the track because I was like, okay, that sounds similar.
True.
Yeah. So yeah, just be careful, man.
Yeah,
Overall,
he does
great.
have the skill.
Yeah.
I would love to hear what more he can do with the skill.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to hear more. For sure.
Yeah. Cool. So this brings us to the end of this session.
Yes.
I think we had a lovely time listening to all your submissions, and there were some real gems out here today.
Yeah, I can agree.
Shout out to Anntumbra, to Oscillators, Mohit, Agent Bugs, Bionic, Malice, Escape, Act Purple.
Yeah.
Guys, you all like really killed it, and those of you that have sent us music that got feedback from us, work on it, and we would love to hear more demos from you.
Yeah, keep us in the loop because there was some really interesting stuff in there, and it was actually quite nice to just have a listening session and like see what's happening within the country and see the different kinds of music coming out of the country. So that was quite nice, actually.
Yeah, it's always nice to like take inspiration back from like all this this kind of experience. Hope you had a fun time, Sid. I definitely did.
Yeah, me too, man. I actually did have fun. Like I was quite surprised, actually. There's so much quality in there that really reassured my faith in the next generation in India, actually.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
All right, so this is us signing off. My name is Ashrit, and see you again very soon for the next edition of Eavesdrop.
Thank you for having me as well.
Yeah, thanks, Sid. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing your precious thoughts with everyone. So yeah, keep a lookout. We do a highlight reel on our Beatworks Instagram with some of the top tracks from today, and we'll also announce the next edition of Eavesdrop and a date. So stay tuned.